One of the best ways to discover new anime is through staff lists. It's quite common for the same staff to work on multiple projects. So if you liked one staff combo, then the chances are you're going to like what they've done on other projects. There's a huge amount of roles you can look at. Art directors, animators, writers, composers. There's a massive web of anime out there connected by staff positions. One of my personal favourite roles is the director. An anime director does have a different presence to what we consider a director over here, but they're heavily involved with many aspects of production. My favourite directors have introduced me to a catalogue of brand new stuff, so I thought I'd share some in this video. So the aim of this video is to give people recommendations of directors that could turn them on to new anime. So as much as people love the likes of Miyazaki, Watanabe or Hosoda, I won't be including them. Everybody already knows about these guys and I want to give some fresh names, so hopefully you can come out this video with a few new directors to check out. Kenji Nakamura has been really busy over the last few years, creating a number of my favourites. He's probably most known for his works on the recent Gatchaman crowd series that nicely showcases his talents, but I think his best work lies in Kuuchuu, Buranko and Mononoke. What I love about these series is the array of styles in each show. They're very episodic, especially Kuuchuu Buranko, so Nakamura gets to show off an impressive amount of stylistic diversity. His ability to work with abstract art styles is also very impressive. Almost all of his works adopt a unique and challenging visual personality. This both stamps down his individuality and shows off his technical ability. Mononoke is one of my favourite Nakamura shows and definitely one of the best examples of his talent. The series is kind of told in a two-dimensional fashion, and not in a bad way. He uses very flat imagery and almost zero dynamic camera shots. This creates a kind of storybook feel that really elevates the eerie atmosphere. It's quite unconventional to ignore so many of a camera's possibilities, but the restrictions he gives himself here just pushes the other elements such as composition. Almost every shot is like a painting, jam-packed with detail and atmosphere, but he has a different approach with Kuuchuu Buranko. This is far more dynamic and he even integrates live action footage. He creates a more lively comedy series here with the use of quicker cuts compared to Mononoke's slow, drawn-out shots. The camera almost flies around the scene and it can get quite surreal at points. Narratively, Kuuchuu Buranko is a lot less dense with narrative content than Mononoke, so Nakamura has extra room for visual experimentation. This wacky visual style really pushes forward the comedy and creates a lot of really funny moments. In fact, he's produced quite the catalogue over the last few years, being the series director for 6 TV anime in just under a decade. It's quite impressive, and considering his most recent work was just last year, I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot more of him in the coming years. Masaaki Yuasa is another director currently working in the industry, and one you might be more familiar with. It seems like everything he has touched so far has turned to gold, and his work is only improving. Since 2004 he's directed a movie, directed 4 TV series, and has dipped his toes into a number of shorter projects, all critically acclaimed in their own rights. What I love about Yuasa is how each of his works seem to innovate. He does a fantastic job of pushing the medium further and further with every project, all within the confines of his small team. He uses smart direction and animation to squeeze every bit of possibility out of what he has available, normally surpassing other projects that might have double or triple the manpower. The first of his works that I want to look into is the Tatami Galaxy, arguably his best work and arguably the best work in the last couple of decades. It's a mixture of everything from comedy to drama to romance, and Yuasa does a great job of blending these together. And like the narrative, the visuals are also a blend of many styles and genres. Almost every scene has its own aesthetic, and visuals ranging from live action to hand-drawn shapes. Everything is given a personality and a kind of homemade feel, and this is fitting for such a personal story. The surreal art style only furthers the reach of Yuasa, and he creates one of the most visually diverse pieces of animation I've ever seen. Another Yuasa work that has a more consistent but equally expressive style is Ping Pong, and this shows off amazingly how Yuasa can use little resources to create something loud and powerful. You'll notice that a lot of his direction goes into animation choices. He even picks up the role of animator in many of his projects, and this is just echoed in Ping Pong. He utilises this lack of detail and realism to create exaggerated body gestures and facial expressions. He breaks the chains of what people think traditionally works in animation and uses this to tell such a unique story. Simple but effective techniques like split screen allow Ping Pong to express more information with less resources. So as you can tell, he's the master of expressiveness. Every element of every scene is brimming with emotion and he never fails to encapsulate me. I'm thinking of doing an extended look into Yuasa's work in an upcoming video, so post a comment if you'd like to see that. You're probably thinking that everybody knows about Mamuro Oshii, and it's true that his works such as Ghost in the Shell or Patlabor are very well renowned, and so they should be, but Oshii's range stretches far beyond dark sci-fi. He's shown his talents in comedic directing, with works like Gosenzo-sama Banbanzai and Urusei Yatsura. And he's delved into the surreal with Twilight Q and Angel's Egg, and he's created fantastic character-driven narratives like the Skycrawlers. Considering his incredibly diverse palette of styles, I think he deserves more credit in areas other than sci-fi. One of Oshii's main narrative techniques is visual symbolism. There's a very strong use of it in almost all of his work. He likes to create motifs that tie into the narrative, like mirrors in Ghost in the Shell, birds in Patlabor, or fossils in Angel's Egg. They're not too arbitrary that they lose meaning, and they're complicated enough to force you to think. I always feel like there's an A and a B narrative going on in his movies. One being the main narrative and a second being a cryptic, more in-depth narrative, one that runs parallel to the original but offers extra information if you can find it. Angel's Egg is one of his lesser appreciated works. It was very early in his career but already shows how talented he is in symbolic storytelling and its use of imagery. His motifs are very present throughout this movie, and there's actually a stronger focus on that secondary narrative. One thing I'd like to focus on here is how he builds up the world of Angel's Egg. It's obviously completely surreal and sometimes unimaginable, but he creates a real sense of atmosphere. With his really detailed designs and long drawn out shots, you're kind of sucked into it against your will and inserted into this weird uninhabited setting. You feel like you've become a part of the madness, and the movie kind of completely takes over. It's one of the most confusingly compelling pieces of art I've ever watched. There's so much to explore in Oshii's filmography. I completely recommend having a look through it if you've only watched his more well-known works, which are also absolutely fantastic, so watch them as well if you haven't already. Rei Matsumoto has a considerably smaller portfolio and has only sat in the director's seat for 2 projects. But the work he has done shines with potential. With Kyousougiga and Kekkai Sensen under her belt, she's already off to a pretty good start. I think Kyousougiga is the best representation of Matsumoto's talent. It's a show brimming with visual flair and character, and what I love about her style is that there's always something going on in each shot. It creates a really dynamic experience. Whether it's camera movement or something in the shot moving, it always feels very alive. She also has a great grasp of characterization. Characters in her story are always framed in interesting ways, and focus is dished out nicely. You can always feel the strong personalities of them through the visuals alone. Matsumoto might not have had the opportunity to put herself up there with the others just yet, but who knows, give it another decade or so and that could be a possibility.